Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Very warm welcome to you. Not so warm here as it was last week. In fact, it's quite chilly, to be honest. Hopefully you can hear me all okay. Just move the chat box out of the way. Get that down out of there. There we go. Can you hear me okay, darling? Brilliant. Okie dokie. I'm on the pound New Zealand, as Anna said, and I've got this running in multiple timeframes, and it's coming up to an interesting point. Let me just flick over to the currency strength multiples. There we go. Okie doke. And as Anna said, this whole business is based on multiple timeframes, and the same applies to the indicators that you use. And it's a question of support and resistance, candlesticks, candle patterns, VPA, everything, and obviously putting it together with the indicators, but using this in multiple timeframes. I say that applies in the same way it does to the charts as it does to the indicators themselves. And we've got a really nice example developing now on the pound New Zealand. Very strongly overbought, the British pound up at the top. This is on 2 minute, this is on 5 minute, this is on 10, this is on 15. So of course, you all know me well, and my eye is instantly drawn up the top and the bottom. That's always my starting point. I'm not too interested in the middle area at the moment. I'm always looking down at the bottom and down at the top. Down at the bottom, we've got the dollar here. We've got the New Zealand getting there. It's getting down into oversold, not quite there on 15. Might not get there at all on 15, but we're already starting to see that reversal beginning to occur on 2. Beginning to develop on 5, nothing much on 10, and nothing on 15 at the moment. But because it is so strongly overbought, that's the one I have my eye on, and obviously down at the bottom. The other one I was looking at earlier on was obviously the euro, because that was coming up for reversal, which duly arrived. It was back over here somewhere at the time that Anna was talking, and there was a nice, in fact, I was on the euro yen, nice move to the downside, and then I was looking at the opportunity for reversal. That reversal is now kicking in over here on the euro, and it's flattening over here. And really, it just goes to the heart of the whole issue, because if you're on 15, you may well be looking at, for example, the euro yen, euro's falling, yen still rising. Looking at the VIX, VIX has opened, gaps up a little bit, still sort of flattish. It's not roaring up anyway. So in terms of risk sentiment, you know, it's not collapsing at any rate. I'll pull up the US indices in a moment on Globex. So in terms of sentiment, that's what the yen's doing. It's it's still up there. So it's a question of using the multiple time frame aspects of trading, not only in the indicators themselves, but also in the chart, obviously in the charts, but also in the indicators. And you can see how strongly this is rising. This is really strong buying now, the New Zealand dollar. The line is almost vertical. Got equally strong selling on the pound, starting to roll into 5 minute as well. So if we go back to the charts, there we go. That's what we're starting to see. Bear in mind, this is a slower time frame. What are we on there? We're on 5 minute there. Okay, so we're still up here. There's absolutely no guarantee this is going to go all the way down to the bottom, and this is going to come all the way up to the top for us very nicely. But that's what it's setting up for. Then you start to analyze the charts. You're looking at the opportunities. You know, where are we? We've had an awful lot of volatility. If I pull up the 1 minute, we've had a lot of volatility already this morning. We had to snap up into congestion, snap down into congestion, reversal back up. So whenever you get these, you know what to expect. It's either congestion or reversal, and you can always be assured that the market makers are going to be in there participating for sure, moving the market around. If we go to the 5 minute chart, we've had this decent move. Now we're starting to see, what have we had on that last candle? Well, first of all, we've had a 2-bar reversal off the trend higher. We had the weakness signal here really also. This was the nice thing with Ninja is that it prints the correct timestamp. So wherever you are in the world, it will print the associated timestamp, which is a pain on MetaQuotes because it's generally running 2 hours out of sync. So it's always difficult to track back to find out where you were or what the market was doing at a particular time in your time zone. But this is the London Open, so we expect to see this this increase in volume, which is what we've got. We're trading at the volume point of control, so only just, I think it may have been down here early on. It's obviously jumped up here now because we've now got slightly more volume here than we had here. So we've got volume building. We're trading at a point where the market is in price agreement. In other words, it's the fulcrum of the market. There's no bullish or bearish sentiment to drive this away from this point. But in the run up to it, we had volatility here, intercongestion. Then we had a further attempt to rise. We had a wick to the upper body with lots of volume. We had a repeat of that performance here with further volume. And then, of course, we get this 2-bar reversal. And if you overlay this, if I move to the 10-minute chart, that would be exactly the same as that pretty much. In other words, effort to rally, collapsing, narrow spread to the candle, lots of volume underneath. You know, it's weakness ahead. That's not a strong signal. Ultimately, over time, this may well break away. We've also got higher volume in this this down candle, so there's clearly, you know, some strong selling around, and that's reflected across the piece, and also in the fact that, you know, we're up here at the top, New Zealand's down here at the bottom. So, you know, if you're a reversal trader, it's an opportunity for setting up for reversal in the slightly slower time horizons. So that's where we are in terms of the pound New Zealand, and of course, if you go and have a look at where we are on the other indicators, the multiples, if we look at the currency array, for example, let's just drop that out of the way. I've isolated out the pound here, so you can see where we are. And up at the top here, we've got cable, we've got pound New Zealand. This is on 3 minutes, so you know it's still pretty strong up there. We've also got the same over here on the 5 minute. It's not quite a perfect house, but it's not far off. And what's interesting is the buying of the pound. The laggard about 10-15 minutes ago was actually pound yen. It was down in the midpoint here. It was down sort of flatlining, pretty much like it was here. It's just starting to pick up that continual buying, and for it to be reflected in universal in total sentiment, if you will, across the market, what you want to see is the euro pound here falling further. In other words, more euro selling or very strong pound buying, if you like. Pound yen at the moment, as I say, is in the midpoint here. It's just not moving. So in terms of the strongest trends, certainly not in the pound yen at the moment, the strongest is pound New Zealand and pound dollar, and that's reflected right the way out to the 15-minute time frame. They're just starting to signal overbought, certainly in terms of cable. You can see here is we've come out of the brackets. What this second ranking ladder delivers is just a signal to say, yeah, this particular pair is either approaching overbought, in other words, where you've got a darker color and it's in brackets, in which case it's approaching that sort of condition, where it is in bright blue with the brackets removed, then we are at that condition. It's not a signal to say, you know, this currency pair is going to reverse. It's just giving you a heads up. It's an alarm, if you like, to say, go and check out this pair, have a look at the chart, see what it's telling you. You know, is this pair a potential opportunity for a reversal? And equally down at the bottom, you've got euro pound potentially setting up into an oversold situation. These others are getting to that sort of condition. So that gives you a heads up in terms of not only strength of trend, where the strongest trends are, it tells you whether the sentiment is generally sweeping in the same direction, because, you know, the pound is a nice example because it's the counter currency. We only got one where it's the counter currency down here. It's the primary currency in all these. So what you want to see all the time is when you're looking at the array, is you want to see the sweeping effect. It's like a radar. The radar sweeps around 360 degrees. This only goes so far. But what you want to see is these climbing, because that will reinforce the sentiment that's holding these two up there, and telling you loud and clear that, yeah, the market is basically buying the pound this morning in this, you know, where are we? Half an hour into the London Open. At the moment, the market is universally buying the pound. Doesn't matter why they're buying the pound. The fact is they are. If you're trading a pound pair, then it's a question of teasing out which particular pair to trade and not getting stuck in something like the pound yen. Now, normally you would say, well, you know, the pound yen is always the most volatile. It's always going to move the most strongly. Generally, that is normally the case. But as you can see here, it's not the case at the moment. In fact, in terms of you know, the pound yen on 15, we've actually got some weak pound selling, if you like. So it just gives you a visual on strength of trend, on the sentiment towards that particular pair that you're trading, and also whether those particular pairs that are part and parcel of the matrix are also continuing to rally, and that strength is seen driving through the matrix in terms of the currency pairs themselves. Let's just go back onto the charts. There we go. See what we're seeing in terms of the chart itself. Now we're starting to see, now this is on, I think this is on 5, wasn't it? There we go. Okay, so we're on 5. So now we are starting to see that pick up from the bottom here. We're starting to see buying of the New Zealand dollar. We are starting to see a gradual sell in the pound, which is what we want to see if we're taking this as a short position. Now the issue, as always, I've said many, many times before, if you're going to trade reversals, and if you were going to trade this as a reversal, the first question you've got to ask yourself is how far is this going to go? And the worrying signal as far as potential return is that we're trading straight back down onto the volume point of control. So from a potential opportunity, for sure there is going to be some congestion. That's not to say this won't reverse longer term, but in terms of taking the position, we've got to expect some congestion to build now because we're moving back down to the volume point of control of itself, and that is where we expect the market to pause. So in terms of taking this position, and let's go up to the 3 minute, there we go, exactly the same, we're sitting down onto the volume point of control. But in terms of taking it longer term, you have to set a wider stop loss because you've got to allow for all the buffering that is going to go on. Indeed, it's probably going to happen on this one because the volume point of control is so much at evidence. You've got it on 1, you've got it on 3, you've got it on 5, you've got it on 10. And this is another facet of using multiple timeframes. They will reveal things that are not immediately obvious as to why a market has paused, why a market has moved suddenly through an area. And you also get obviously a different perspective in terms of candle patterns and in terms of your VPA analysis. It just brings everything together, but it tells you so much in terms of other issues which are going to come into play either in taking the trade or getting into the trade or getting out of the trade. You know, it's all there. Now, what's interesting at the moment about this particular scenario is that what's driving it is purely New Zealand buying and not pound selling. So if we go back onto the currency strength multiples, if I can find them, there we go. Okay, so what we're seeing right now, and it's self-evident on the 2 minute, yes, we've had very strong buying in the New Zealand dollar, but against the pound, that is not going to be particularly reflected in a strong trend, which is actually what you've seen. Why? Because the pound has yet to roll over. And in fact, at the moment, on this particular time frame, it's almost traveling in the same direction. So if it's traveling in the same direction, it's not going to be the strongest trade. The strongest trade is going to be certainly on something like New Zealand yen, Euro New Zealand, New Zealand Swiss. Any of those pairs would do, purely because you've got the counterweight of equally strong selling in the yen, in the euro, and in the Swiss franc. So if you were to align the New Zealand Swiss chart against New Zealand pound or pound New Zealand, you would see a very different picture, and you'd think, well, why? And that's the reason why. It's purely because the pound is not selling at the moment. It is staying up here for the time being. The market is not selling the pound. It may have weakened a little, but it's not rolling over into a heavy sell, whereas the New Zealand dollar, which was under a heavy sell, is now into a heavy buy, which is fine, but it's not reflected in the pound New Zealand. So if I switch those charts over to any of those three, yen, euro, or Swiss franc, just go back. Let's go to pound yen. Let's have a look at the pound yen. Sorry, what am I talking about? Not the pound yen. New Zealand yen, sorry, beg pardon. Sorry, I was looking at another chart there for a minute, lost my thread. So if we go to New Zealand yen, sorry, a little bit sluggish at the moment. Let's move that out of the way. There we go. What we're actually seeing on the New Zealand yen is a nice development of the trend higher, and that's the reason why. So when you're looking at these indicators, when you're looking at charts, it's always a question of trying to tease out, you know, what is going to give me the best opportunity? Where am I going to hunt out my best trades? And that's what all these indicators do. They're really they're like your radar on the market. They're like a sonar. You go, a trawler goes fishing, and they switch their sonar on. What are they looking for? They're looking for the shoals of fish. They don't want to put their nets in an area where there's nothing to fish for. There's only small stuff. They want to go where the big shoals are. Throw their nets in, launch their nets, and drag in a big shoal, big catch. And that's what you're looking for. It's exactly the same principle. So we're on the New Zealand yen. What are we seeing? We've got a nice a trend monitor here, blue on 15 second, it's blue on 1 minute, it's transitioned through on 3 minutes. So we've gone from the bearish into a transitional color. We didn't get a darker red here, we've just gone straight through into bright blue, which is nice. Haven't seen a transition yet on 5, you wouldn't expect it because it's too far away from the transition which is happening here, the reversal, which is now rippling through. Ultimately, if it is strong, and it continues, and this continues higher, and we get a cross maybe, then it'll ripple through into your 5, on into your 10. Of course, you wouldn't expect anything so far out as the daily. In terms of the daily, you know, this particular pair is still pretty bullish, but from an intraday perspective, you know, this is a nice, bearish, beg pardon, there's a nice bullish trend developing intraday. So, you know, that's where it is. Then you start to look at the charts. Well, where is this heading to? What have we got in the way of anything ahead that's going to cause us problems? Nothing on that one. You know, we're moving up into a low volume node here, so that's all nice and dandy. Let's have a look at the 3 minute, up to the 3 minute. We've broken through some, this was quite a strong resistance at the time on this particular candle. So we had nice volume, nice spread candle, no particular wicks. And this was a nice, a strong area of resistance, not because the individual levels per se were particularly strong, but those of you who have the accumulation distribution will know that the wider the line and the stronger is that particular area, it does it automatically. So this is very minor. This level here is stronger. It's been tested more times and hence develops as a stronger area. But you've actually got this cluster of 3. So when you get clusters of them, you've got a mini cluster here, which we're just testing. We've got a little minor level above, so that's not terribly important. What is important from the trend development is that we've gone through this low volume node, which is great for us as traders because we know there shouldn't be any resistance to that, which there hasn't been. It's gone straight through there like a knife through hot butter, which is great. Now we're moving up into some heavier volume here, so that's maybe going to cause a little bit of a pause point, but it all depends how much volume we've got driving up here. So that's all moving along nicely. Up onto, that was 3. Let's go and have a look at 5. What have we got on the way ahead on 5? Well, we've got a very strong level of resistance coming into play. You see it's tested here, it's been tested multiple times, very strong, capped off, capped off this attempt to rally before. Is it going to do the same here? We don't know. But you know, this is part and parcel. If you're trading on a 1 minute and you haven't got the 5 minute up, you don't know that. Now you've got that piece of information. You can see the transition on the trend monitor starting to kick in. Now it appears to be coming into effect. Now, you know, there's nothing to say it's going to stop at this point, but the mere fact that it's there is really capping this move right now. It's really putting some downward pressure on. So if you're going to jump in now, it's too late because you're now in a situation where you're hitting some resistance and you're probably going to see, at the very least, a pause point. It may well get through there duly in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever. But for the time being, it's capped. Now, if it gets through there, the good news for the longer term in inverted commas of, let's say, the next, I don't know, 20 minutes, we're on a 5 minute chart here, the volume is falling away on the volume point histogram, which is great. There's absolutely nothing up here to hinder that advancement of price, which is super. So if we got through this level, it should go through here pretty swiftly. And in terms of price resistance, further price resistance overhead, there's nothing. You've only got this level up here at 45. So we've got a really nice run from 15 to 45. If you can get through here, then that's great. You've got 30 pips of pretty much clear water from a technical perspective on the 5 minute chart at any rate. And that's the way to analyze all this. And you can see, again, going back to the example of the pound New Zealand, this is going nowhere at the moment. Now, that's not to say we won't see pound selling coming in, but by the time that pound selling comes in, this move on the New Zealand dollar may well have fizzled out, because on the New Zealand dollar may well have fizzled out purely because this may well be up at the top with the pound by then, in which case, there is just no trade there. What we're seeing at the moment is we're on New Zealand yen. nice strong cross. We've got the New Zealand rising very strongly, the yen falling very strongly. Also, just checking on the VIX, it's kind of flip-flopping around, not doing a great deal at the moment. You've got other opportunities here. We've got the Aussie rising strongly. So, if you were looking at a trend, you wouldn't look at the Aussie New Zealand because the two of them are rising very strongly together. They're both being bought. So what is it going to deliver in terms of a trend? Answer, 9/10 of 4/5 of not a lot. Because they're rising together. So if you've got two trains traveling on the same track, there's no differential speed. If they're leaving the station, I'm sure you've all seen it, you've all been there. If you've got two trains pulling out at the same time, there's no differential speed. So it's exactly the same principle here. So if you've got two trains traveling in opposite directions, their closing speed is enormous. And it's exactly the same principle, but just in terms of the trend. Now, obviously, from the perspective of the trend here, what we want to see, particularly, if we go down onto the 10 here, in terms of the 10, we've got a lot of volume here. We're still at the volume point of control, but similar sort of picture. If we can get through this level here, which as you can see has reasonably strong. This has been tested 3 times, so it's thicker. This has only been tested once, so this is minor. This has been tested 5 times, so that's pretty strong. So if we can get through these two little price-based resistance areas and break away from the congestion volume here, then as we move up through this region, this is going to be pretty straightforward stuff in terms of moving through here, because there's nothing in the way of volume to present a barrier to the move higher. And that is part and parcel of once you're in, that is part and parcel of assessing the opportunity before you actually get into the trade. How much is this trade going to deliver? And given the risk that I've got to put on the table, is it actually worth it? Am I happy with laying out, I don't know, 15 points of risk or 15 pips of risk for potentially a 20 pip return, or maybe even a 15 pip return, or maybe even a 10 pip return? You're looking at the chart, but the difference is you're not doing it on some absurd, well, I've got to have 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 or 2-to-1, that sort of guff. You're basically doing it on an assessment of the chart in multiple time frames. You're looking at it as an opportunity and arriving at a judgment call for yourself. Am I comfortable taking this risk or am I not? Is it delivering what I'm comfortable taking or is it not? And that's it. That's all you have to do. Now what we're starting to see, and this is the reason, if you're going to trade reversals, you have to be patient and you have to set much, much wider stop losses, because you can see here the pound is starting to show signs of rolling over potentially. This trade is carrying on, which is great. We're now starting to try and push through this region here. We tried it once and we failed in the previous candle. We had lots of volume under there. So, it's a question of being patient, cautious, waiting. If you're in the trade, fine. If you're not, wait for that opportunity, wait for a close above this region, maybe wait for a close even through this area. That gives you even more protection. And then it's a question of jumping in and hopefully seeing that trade move all the way to the upside through there. You can see here on the trend monitor, we've got some transitional phases here. We had a little bit of change here, but nothing on the 1 minute. The 1 minute hasn't flickered, and that's the key point. Yes, you're going to see it on a very fast time frame. Nothing on here, and that's the reason we developed the trend monitor, with that simple expedient in place to give you the confidence not to get bounced out when you get into these sorts of situations, to hold the position, to get you through there. Because if you can't maximize this, because I can assure you, if you closed out, you'll be kicking yourself now. You'd be saying, why did I close out? Because this looks as though it's going higher. It's certainly signaling over here on the CSI, if for no other reason. You've got all these other levels to consider, but the trend monitor was developed with that primary aim in mind, to give you the confidence to hold a position, get through it. Because if you're taking lots of small losses, which you will, if you can't take a handful of bigger winners, then that's where you're going to struggle, because your account won't move forward in the way it should. Let me just go back to the CSI and just see what's happening on the faster time frames for the pound, just see if that's starting to roll over now. There we go. Okay, that's what we're seeing now. You had to wait and be patient. Where was this? 7:45. This is basically an hour up here. So before this move develops, you've had to wait an hour. We've gone through the session crossover, and even as I'm talking, there's no guarantee this is going to go all the way down to the bottom. But you can see on the 2 minute, it's already started to descend. Then you're trying to tease out, well, what am I going to trade against? Dollar, no. Yen, no. Swiss franc, no, because they're all moving in the same direction. So you'd be looking at something like pound Aussie. The Aussie, however, has already started to track higher. You know, it's already roaring up with the New Zealand. So maybe by the time this starts to develop, this will be too high. It's kicking up here, it's kicking up here. So maybe the better opportunity is to look at the Swiss franc, because the Swiss franc's at the extreme with the pound at the extreme. So maybe it's the pound Swiss to go and have a look at, pound Swiss to have a look at over here, or maybe cable over here. You know, you've got pound at the top, dollar at the bottom. And that is what you're doing the whole time. It's this constant process, up and down, cross the charts, look at the array, look at the matrix, haven't pulled the matrix in, look at the charts, up and down, constantly assessing the chart, the opportunity, the strength of that particular trend. Where are we? Am I going to trade reversals? Am I going to jump on this trend? You know, we're in New Zealand yen, or we were in New Zealand yen. You know, you've got that developing. We've had a cross. You're going to jump on that train now. It's well underway. You've lost, you know, a big chunk of that trend. But if you don't want to trade reversals, you're going to have to trade trend. So where are you going to jump on that trend? Do you wait for the cross? Do you get in before the cross? Those are the sorts of things, and you have to decide that in advance. Am I comfortable trading reversals, putting more risk on the table, wider stop losses, being more patient? Am I a patient person? If I'm not patient, I have to be trading all the day, and I prefer trading a trend because my stop loss can be that much wider. Fine, you know, that's what you go and do. Now you can do both. You can trend trade, you can reversal trade, all sorts of things. It's up to you. You can breakaway trade. You know, the choice is yours. You can be all things to all men and women. But you have to decide in advance what it is you're trying to do on that particular trade. Let's just go quickly back onto the charts, and I'm going to wrap up. There we go. Back there we are. So there we are. Yep. And just flick that up, and you know, it didn't close above that level. A little bit more weakness, you know, effort to rally, fell back, effort to rally, fell back. So it's not looking very strong. May come later in the day. We've had, you know, the rally, if you like, we've had that little run up. That was nice, 2-bar reversal, little run up. Now we're running into weakness. We're trading around the volume point of control. We've got resistance capping off. That's it for that particular trade, for that particular time at the moment. You know, that's done and dusted. Go and look for something else. You know, it's as simple as that. Out, on to the next one. It's not going anywhere fast at the moment. So there we are. I'm going to wrap up there just to give you a heads up as to where all the bits and pieces are. This is Quantum Trading Education. You will find all the details of the Complete Forex Trading Program. We call it that because essentially that is what it is. It's everything. It includes the complete suite of trading tools for your chosen platform. It covers everything you need to know about trading this complex market. The psychology of trading I was talking about, you know, understand yourself, understand and align what is going to work for you, because if you do that, you'll give yourself the greatest chance of success. If you're trying to do something you're uncomfortable with, if you're not a scalper, if you don't like trading reversals, well, you know, if you don't like scaling in, those are the things you need to understand. And that's why we always tell people, we always suggest our students, you've got to start there. It's a big part of the program. There are 8 PDF downloads associated with it. There are tests. You can and you'll analyze yourself and analyze more importantly your strengths, play to your strengths, manage your weaknesses. Massive module on the fundamentals, as you would expect. Huge module on relational analysis, understanding the flow of sentiment from one market to the other, how they're all connected, because they're all connected through one thing, which is risk on, risk off. The technical analysis module is a deep dive into VPA, gives you all the other stuff around Wyckoff, explains to you about primaries and secondaries, everything else you need to know. It's just a key plank of the program, and the mechanics of trading will teach you how to physically get into trades, manage trades, get out of trades, managing everything to do with the mechanics of trading. And down the bottom here is another 200 hours of video, how to use the indicators, pulling it all together, topic webinars, webinar library, huge array of VPA chart examples to help you understand this whole business of VPA, and a big resources section as well. And of course, you're more than welcome to join all the other students in the VPA chat room, which is over here. I won't pull that up, but it's up there. You can follow Anna. This is Anna's site, annacooling.com. You find all the books up here. They're all on Amazon. They're either in Kindle or paperback version. So you're more than welcome to go and check them out there. You'll find all the other bits and pieces down here in terms of Anna's analysis down the left-hand side, Facebook pages, and all the links to all the various sites. This is the software. This is where you find it, quantumtrading.com. Currently in MT45, NinjaTrader, and TradingView, and we've also got TradeStation coming. I know it's been a long time coming, but it is an awesome platform with some amazing stuff in there, particularly in terms of radar screen. All the indicators will be available. We will be developing more as we come out of TradeStation, which we hope to have in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Then we're going to drop back onto TradingView to tidy that one up, to bring all the other indicators across that are not there. And if you have the TradingView full package, you've already invested in the full package, you will receive all those outstanding indicators free of charge. I mean, that's, sorry? Before the price rises, and that will then be aligned with the MT45 package. So if you've purchased the TradingView package, full package as is at the moment, you will receive all of those free of charge as an add-on, as a thank you from us for investing with us on TradingView. So, you know, it's just an amazing deal, and that will be available once we finish TradeStation. We'll be dropping onto that and porting those all across for you. So that's it. That's us done. Thank you so much for coming along today. Hope you've enjoyed the session. Hope you've learned something, and we do appreciate you joining us. So we are back on Thursday afternoon at 5:15 UK time. Enjoy the rest of the trading day, and we will see you next week here at the same time, 7:45, or later in the week on the US futures session. So thanks for coming along today. See you soon, and bye for now.